Okay, so yes, so my acknowledgement was placed for the traditional owners of the land. So you haven't missed a significant part of the speech content of the speeches yet. But it did occur to me, Darman sort of alluded to the speech that was being given, and he said, "Oh, we're having a speech from Stephen about the art of, well, about letting go." And I said, "No, it's the art of letting go." There's a bit of a jokey kind of approach to that. But then, as I said that, I thought, well, actually, art, looking up, and I was thinking, well, art is a fantastic way, and creativity is a fantastic way of letting go. And I do touch upon that, but it was a quick reflection that I had at that point. So, look, I'm going to speak about my experiences and offer suggestions on ways of letting go. Ways of letting go of those things and the art of letting go of those things, which often get in the way of a life with less dips in the road, less bumpy life. I'm hoping to cover ethical practices, give a bit of inspiration for using ethics, take a deeper dive into the way that craving is within Buddhism traditionally broken down, and sort of cast a light on one of Buddhism's most profound teachings. And I'm going to ask as well, why let go of craving? Is it actually necessary? So what I'd like to do is start not on things that we want to let go of. I've sort of spun this around and applied, well, what are the things that we want to retain? Because I think in things that we want to retain, we might find the things that help us let negativity go. There might be things we want to retain, that are qualities we want to keep. And when I'm confronted with the rich diversity of teachings in Buddhism, it can, for me, sometimes seem pretty overwhelming and too much. I've been known to tie myself in knots. I hope I'm not tying myself in knots in this speech so far, and I hope it doesn't end up that way. But I realised that keeping it simple is the way to go for me. That's when I began practicing the 5 dharmas, which are the aspirational words which are often chanted before formal meditation. I found them straightforward and an accessible guide to practice. And they help, there are 5 stabilizers for living a wholesome life, if you like. And these are things that I want to keep, not let go of, okay? So these 5 dharmas are compassion and love, generosity, contentment, truthfulness, mindfulness, and awareness. So the art of letting go of whatever bogs me down is to see where I'm at and sort of hold them up almost like an old note and say, well, has this got the hallmarks in it? And that could be in any circumstances, from a mild irritability to an absolute rage. If I'm holding those circumstances up to the dharmas, you can be quite sure that one of them is missing. So over time, I'm engaging less from a place of negativity and reaction, and more from a place of creativity by looking at how problems are not aligning those 5 dharmas. Occasionally it brings success. Frequently and often it might fail. In which case I can use creativity in that failure in a kind of, well, don't be so hard on yourself, Stephen. Speak to yourself as if you were your best friend and say, well, look, that was a moment, let's move forward. So let me provide a couple of examples. Chocolate. When I'm embarking upon a chocolate eating marathon, which is ultimately an unsatisfactory thing to do, a short reflection reveals that of the 5 dharmas, contentment has evaded me in mind. Likewise, mindfulness is seldom at the forefront of my mind when I'm feeling uptight and agitated with someone or something. In fact, any of those 5 dharmas can be applied to any one situation, so they're quite dynamic, and that makes the practice quite dynamic. And although working with the dharmas in the heat of the moment is part of my practice, so too is reflecting upon them before the heat of the moment. And deeper reflection is likely to lead me to the Noble Eightfold Path, a solution that Buddha applied or discovered over 2,500 years ago. Once again, we're invited to take those teachings and apply them for ourselves, test them out, and see the results. But why let go of the things we crave? And it's easy to ponder this one also. If succumbing to craving whisks one away from the drudgery of life, even if it's just for a while, why should we let go of it? Whilst intellectually, I know that excessiveness is no good, and there's some things, some spaces I just won't go into whatsoever. It's not unusual for me to say, well, just a little bit, on things like technology, caffeine, TV, sex, all of these things that are socially accepted are often the ones that are the pitfalls. They're indulgences which can stop us in our tracks and can lead to problems. And these are the things that I recognise through my practice that are behind my cravings and desires. In fact, if I said I was giving out any of those things, I would wager a bet, and betting isn't one of my cravings, but it's just a term of phrase, right? I'd wager a bet that there'd probably be a queue at the door, possibly. But the reason we need to let go of these cravings is, in my view, is that these, well, it's an accepted view, is that these activities only provide a temporary relief from dissatisfaction or dukkha, as we also know it as. Coming back to things that only feel good for a short while is really deluding ourselves that a thing is permanent and substantial. And when that thing goes into the ether, i.e. my chocolate, we want more, and that cycle continues. So we could play whack-a-mole with these things, left, right, and centre. What I've also found helpful in my study is the sort of the Buddhist psychology to the three types of craving that can further unpack some of these things. There's mechanisms behind that. None of them are said to be more difficult or more important to work with first than another. I've just listed them in an order I think that I tend to recognise them and frequently encounter them. And each of these three things, the old list game, each of these three spheres of craving are actually listed attributed within the Four Noble Truths as well. Within the first Noble Truth, which is that there's suffering. And they all they all end up in a place where we can't accept non-self as a concept. And that's what keeps us also spinning around, if we can get off the bus at that point for it. So the three things, the three psychologies. The first is the sensory pleasure. The sights, the sounds, the tastes, the smells, etc. As we succumb to this craving, we've learned we frequently need more to satisfy our impulses. And hence the bit of chocolate ending up in an empty wrapper. And it sounds easy to know, well, I don't want an empty wrapper there. I'll just take a little bit up here, down here, not so much perhaps. If there's a heartfelt belief that I find is helpful, it's after knowing that I've succumbed to sensory craving. The heartfelt belief becomes, well, that was just a moment. Now I can move on. Now I can move on. Now I can move on. And try to just gently work with that habit that I'm trying to work with and not be harsh with myself. The second type of craving we occasionally browse about is a desire for becoming. So this is a yearning perhaps for a better identity, an improved version of myself, bigger muscles, richer, stronger, better loved, whatever it might be. And I suppose there's nothing wrong with self-development, but when it's not done from a place of right action, or it's done for kind of, I suppose, sort of from a place of trying to escape, then what we're doing there is ignoring the gifts again that we've already got, and that can lead us into numerous difficulties and vulnerabilities, actually. And those vulnerabilities are something that I suppose the advertising industry is working with that craving, right? The third type of craving is the desire for non-becoming. So this is the desire to break free, according to traditional Buddhist philosophy, to break free from oneself and one's situation, to run away to greener pastures or to less challenging circumstances. Now, behind this one, I'm told our egos, that's my ego talking. I'm told our egos are kind of quite delicate and fickle, and they'll do anything to sort of escape any situation where they are challenged. because they like the concept that they have built up of the owner very nicely, and any situation that they're put in which challenges that, worm themselves away in whatever way. Now that sounds like you're trying to run away from something, but yeah, as I sit here, I can advise you and say from experience that this is a craving. You know, I'm craving perhaps for this talk to finish because I'm like, well, it's my first talk in like 3 years, and not giving the presentation, etc. And I suppose on a broader scale, it explains the reason I left the country of my birth and all that I'd known, because I wanted to escape growth. But of course, the growth was within me. It wasn't within a country I'd left behind, right? So that's the three cravings. But I suppose in 4 words, again upon reflection, if I could sort of summarize the art of letting go in 4 words, it would be that's a word, the Noble Eightfold Path. Because for me, it's the definitive way of working with craving, and much, much more besides. It encompasses very rich teachings and many practices. Many of us will be familiar with it. And there's enough working ground in there for me for a very, very long time, very long time. And in addition to that, I suppose like any difficulty or any anguish, we're told to hold it like a mother holds a newborn child, a crying, perhaps newborn child, and a difficult, perhaps newborn child, but treat it with care, love, and attention. But to practice and practice, and over time, a new positive habit is instilled over a negative one. And again, to use sensory craving as an example of that, even if I reduce that little bit of consumption of chocolate, and I don't include looking at the calories to see if it's less, I'm just talking about, for me, the actual chocolate, reducing it just by a little bit, that's a small gain. Or in the case of my ego feeling threatened and wanting to run away from things, perhaps deciding to sit up in front of you guys and give a talk is a way to sort of give my ego, well, actually, it's not so bad, or it's okay, or, you know, people don't think that you've got to be fill in the blank of somebody fantastic that you think is presenting well. But the more the action is repeated, the greater the reinforcement. So I'm sure if I got up here every week, A, you'd probably think, why is he getting up there every week? But B, it would become easier and easier. But same applies to other habits, and I can speak from experience, certainly, just in meditation. For me, meditation, also now trying to apply it to perhaps, I suppose, exercise, physical exercise, just showing up is part of the process. So to wrap it up, the art of letting go, I think is actually a positive. It's a positive thing. It's something that we needn't be harsh about with ourselves. And you know, you've patiently listened whilst I've spoken about the 5 dharmas and being compassionate. I've touched upon the 4 noble truths. I put them under the spotlight, and I've spoken about Buddhist understandings of psychology of craving. And I've done this in about 15 or 20 minutes, which gives credence to my last point on this talk. As part of the Sangha here in the Triratna Buddhist order, we have lots and lots and lots of material that we can dip into. Perhaps the best approach is to just dive in, irrespective of whether you're thinking it's sticking or not, in the of the understanding that it's actually being absorbed. And as I say, just turn up for yourself. I also believe that there are useful teachings from outside, from other spaces, that can be brought into our practice. And your approach might be different to mine, but they're bound to be shared ideas and preferences within that ever-widening circle that we embrace. And I'd be delighted and look forward to sharing some of those practices with you. Thank you.